Hey there, everyone. Mr. Lewis here again. I hope you had a wonderful spring break, but it's time to get back to work. We only have two more units to cover in AP Human Geography, and then we're just getting ready for the AP exam. The AP exam, once again, is going to take place on May 28th, which is also the last day of school. So essentially, we have until the end of school to cover two units and then prepare for the exam. That's plenty of time to do all that, but we have to take it step by step. And the first step is covering Unit 8, Development and Industry. I think you're going to like this one. All right, Unit 8, Development and Industry. We're going to break this unit down into those two portions, development and industry. So first, let's take a look at development. And within this portion of Unit 8, we have four sections: measures of development, theories of development, how development fits into international trade and the global economy, and then women and development. First, though, what does development really mean? When we say a country is developed or developing or underdeveloped, what are we referring to? And the fact is, there are really many different factors. We're not referring to just one thing. We might be referring to quality of life in that country, things like life expectancy or access to healthcare. It might be educational levels, the number of people who achieve a primary or secondary education, or literacy rates. We might be referring to economic indicators like average income or the types of jobs that people typically have in that country. We might be referring to infrastructure, the quality of airports and bridges and roads, or consistent access to energy, reliable energy sources. We might be referring to stability, political stability, social stability, economic stability, or a lack thereof, or gender equality, things like educational access, economic opportunity. There are a number of things we might be referencing when we talk about development. But the fact is, when it comes down to it, it's really all of these things put together, right? And no country is perfect. We're going to see some of the different ratings or scales that are used to measure development. But again, no country is perfect. Every country has one area at least in which they can improve. No country is number one in the world in all of these ratings, right? So we have to take all of them into account. We're going to start by doing just that. Section 8.1 is called Measures of Development. Let's take a look at how we actually measure the level of development within a country. And there are two main categories that we're going to break down these measures into. One is economic and one is social. Economic development measures consist of things like gross domestic product, GDP, the value of all goods and services produced in a country in a given year. Or how about GNP, gross national product? This is GDP plus income from foreign investments. We might look at gross national income per capita. This is per person, per citizen. So this would be income per citizen. We could also see how that income is truly distributed among the population. This is just on average, but what if there's a big gap between the rich and the poor? That would suggest something entirely different than what GNI per capita would give us. And then finally, sectoral structure. What kinds of jobs dominate the labor force in a country? Are they primary jobs, things like agriculture or mining? Are they secondary jobs, which are manufacturing jobs? Or tertiary, things like sales and services? So these are economic measures. What about social development measures? Now we're getting into things like fertility rates, infant mortality rates, which we discussed in Unit 2, Population and Migration. We're getting into sustainable behaviors, fossil fuel use versus renewable energies. We're talking about education levels, things like literacy rates, right? Again, the number of people who can read and write within a population. Or gender equality, or as is measured on the GII, gender inequality. That's the Gender Inequality Index, which takes into account things like reproductive health, or empowerment in government, or different types of labor that males or females have within a population. So these are social development measures. There are lots of different factors and many of them overlap. There's an organization called the World Bank. The World Bank is an international financial institution that has provided loans for many years now, and now the Bank of China is doing similar things in Asia and Africa. But Each of these organizations provides loans to try and promote development. The Bank of China has been doing a lot of this in the hopes of building up infrastructure in Asia and Africa and parts of Europe as well, and really all around the world, because of the One Belt, One Road project that we discussed, trying to direct all trade back to China, right? Building this enormous infrastructure project that sort of reroutes trade with China at the center of all of it. And they've been handing out a lot of money to make this happen. But the World Bank hands out a lot of money as well. In some cases, it is trying to push the development of infrastructure, but it could also be for rural development. It might have something to do with climate change and combating the effects of climate change. It might be to promote the economy in a particular region or give people better access to healthcare, build hospitals, things of that nature. So if you're interested, you can click on this link here, and this is going to show you a list of all of the development indicators that are used by the World Bank. And what you'll see is that a lot of them are very similar to the economic and social indicators that we just looked at on the last couple slides. But what it comes down to is we have to create a system that uses some of these indicators to measure development. And it's almost impossible to take all of them into account with fidelity, meaning with accuracy, because some of them we simply just don't know. Some of them we don't have enough access, and that would be quite a complex system. Now, there are many indices or indexes, all right? There are many indices that would try and do this, take into account maybe 20, 30 different factors that would determine the level of development within a country. But what we're about to see is that some of them really streamline all of that. They try to narrow it down to a few indicators that they believe are very, very, very important in measuring the level of development in a country and are very consequential. Okay, meaning they have a huge impact on what we would call development, or are a result of development or lack thereof. With the Human Development Index, this consists of 3 of those indicators, 3 components. And again, there are so many we could take into account, right? So take this with a grain of salt, because this is just one index, taking into account only 3 different factors. Those different factors are life expectancy, education levels, and income by purchasing power parity. Now, what purchasing power parity means is income is not just income for everyone around the world. Purchasing power parity accounts for variations in different prices of goods around the world and the different values of currencies within each country. So it balances all of that to try and create a level playing field, so to speak. And I think we could all agree these are 3 pretty important components. You know, are there things missing? Absolutely. It's not perfect, and it's only one way to measure development, but it is a widely used index. It is a widely used and well-regarded method, the HDI, because life expectancy, yeah, I think we can all agree that's pretty important. It's a huge indicator of quality of life within a country. Education levels, I hope we would all agree that that's pretty important. You're watching this video after all. And then income, although money is certainly not the end-all be-all, people need income to sustain life. They need income to sustain a quality of life, right? A certain quality of life. And if you don't have that income, you are going to, in some countries, simply fall into poverty, perhaps homelessness. Bad things are going to happen. Or in other countries, you're going to be relying on the government for that income or for housing or whatever it might be. So income truly has a large impact on our overall quality of life, as well as access to all kinds of opportunities, right? To improve, in some cases, things like educational levels or access to healthcare. And that's unfortunate, but that is the truth. So these are 3 very important components that we have to take into account with the Human Development Index. Now, I have a challenge for you to end section 8.1 today. That challenge is to look at 3 maps which are going to represent each of these 3 components of the HDI and try to predict which country would rank number 1 on the HDI. Out of all the countries in the world, which one would be at the top of the Human Development Index? So, your first map is life expectancy. This is life expectancy around the world with women on the left, men on the right. This is a choropleth map. Each country is filled in with a different color. The dark blue would be the highest ages. You can see that in the map on the left here. Japan, South Korea, France, Spain, Italy. Okay, and then dark green would be 80 to 85 years. Blue was 85 to 90. That's life expectancy. That's pretty high for life expectancy, right? Even the United States is not in that 85 to 90 range. We're in the 80 to 85 range. Anything in that lighter green is 75 to 80. So take a good look. If you have to pause this for a second, take a good look. You're going to try and predict, after all, this is a challenge, which country is number 1. But you have to take into account all 3 factors, not just this one map. So that's life expectancy. Let's take a look at the next one. This is mean years of schooling. Average years of schooling. Again, a choropleth map. Each country filled in with a different shade of blue or almost green when you get to less years of schooling. The darkest color is this dark blue, 12 to 15 years on average, 12 to 15. That means on average, not only are people finishing secondary school, but going beyond that, going beyond high school on average. You can see the United States falls into this darkest color. Yay, good for us. That's awesome. And then we have some countries here in Central Europe and up into Scandinavia, as well as the UK, Ireland, Iceland, Japan, South Korea. So, that's your second map. Okay, these are 2 of our indicators, life expectancy and educational attainment. Finally, gross national income per capita. So this is income per person on a purchasing power parity basis. This is our 3rd indicator in the HDI. And again, a choropleth map here. Dark green would be the highest income, dark red would be the lowest. So when I'm looking at dark green, I'm seeing the United States, Saudi Arabia, Germany, again, a couple countries up in Scandinavia here. All right. I'll give you a second. If you want to pause this, take a look. I'm going to move on now. Taking into account all 3 of these factors, Norway is number 1 on the HDI scale. They rank number 1 in the Human Development Index with a value of 0.95. This would be out of 1. Okay, 1 would be perfect. Life expectancy at birth is 82.3 years. Expected years of schooling, 18.1. So that's way more than what we even saw on that map. They were literally off the charts. And then down here, so that's expected years of schooling. Mean years of schooling is actually 12.6. Okay, so that was right within that range that we saw, but expected years of schooling, woo, off the charts. But again, that's just expectations. Mean years of schooling, 12.6. So just beyond secondary school on average, which is still very good. And then gross national income per capita, $68,000, just over $68,000 per person. So Norway is the HDI champ. But does that necessarily mean Norway is the best country in the world to live? No. It depends on who you are, and it depends on which of those indicators, both economic and social, are most important to you. So we're going to continue to explore all these different indicators of development throughout Unit 8, but we'll continue that tomorrow. For today, if you could just please do your Unit 8 vocab. There are 50 questions in there for you, 50 terms. So it's quite a bit. You might want to get hacking away at that, but it is worth 25 points. You have unlimited attempts, so please make sure you earn all those points. And if you have any questions, if you run into any obstacles at all, please reach out to me and I'll help you move through those. All right, thank you as always for tuning in, and I'll see you tomorrow for sections 8.2 and 8.3. Bye.